Hi, I'm Roli Srivastava,
I'm Anuradha Nagraj.
and this is The Migration Story. Hi, welcome to another episode of the Migration Stories Ask Us Anything podcast. I'm Roli Srivastava and Anuradha Nagraj is here with me, and we both will be taking reader questions. And we are excited to see quite a few questions, and we hope we have answers to them. But before that, Anuradha, you want to say something? We just completed 2 years.
Yeah, I think before we go to reader questions, we've just this January we finished 2 years since the migration story was launched. It seems like a long journey, and hopefully,
That's it. Yeah, to me it feels short. It's like we just launched on that Sunday, 7th January.
correct. Uh, so it's been quite eventful for us at the migration story. So we kind of bring our reader subscribers up to speed a little bit. So, like you said, it's been 2 years, and in 2 years we've expanded our coverage, reported from many more cities, tried different formats.
Yeah, absolutely. We did expand our coverage, which was also our aim for the for 2025, and I think we kind of fulfilled that goal we had set for. Not fulfilled. You can never tell enough migration stories. So when I say goal fulfilled, we managed to tell stories that we had announced in January last year, that we'll start looking at Indian migrants in other parts of the world, not just internal. So we did report from other parts of the world, which was good. But of course, like I said, we've barely scratched the surface. So, but we did expand coverage.
One of the things we were committed to when we started the migration story was to also enable other fellow colleagues and journalists from different parts of the country to be able to tell these stories effectively, to be able to find publishing spaces for them. And towards that endeavor, we have started, doing these training workshops for journalists and anyone else actually interested in the space of migration. And we hope to also not only talk about what are the different elements of migration and how can you connect it to different things that are happening today in our country globally around this topic, with climate, with policy, etc., but also to see what are the solutions on ground, how can these be captured better. So that has been our endeavor, and we've started doing these trainings, which we are very excited about. Not only is it's a great place of learning for us also, because there's a lot of
Yeah, that's a
collaborative discussions and with
yeah.
lots of people from different places.
True. Yeah, that's true. And it's while we've expanded our coverage, we've also expanded our team a little. We have Aishwarya Mohanty and Sajid Ali, who've joined us since December last year. Sajid is going to be heading our multimedia, and Aishwarya has joined us as special correspondent, and she's been associated with the migration story for quite some since we launched, and she's been doing ground reports. And Sajid is also doing a lot of great videos, so our viewers and listeners should keep a watch on our YouTube channel, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to us on Spotify, subscribe to us everywhere actually, so that you don't miss any of the stories, podcasts and videos that we are bringing out for you. This is not just to promote the work that we are doing, but these are really good stories, as in they are both informative, they are engaging. So do subscribe so that you don't miss any updates from us.
And the last update from our end is that we've started a new newsletter. And for all of those who feel it's, there's too much information out there, it's overwhelming to track everything that all of us are putting out, do subscribe to our newsletter. It's very nicely curated. It will give you the gist of a lot of things we do and give you the freedom to click and go to the story that you particularly want to read. So yeah, you will find all these details in our show notes also. So do check it out.
Since we are talking about all things nice and good, so the migration story will be at the Kala Ghoda festival. We'll be doing a climate storytelling workshop on 2nd February between 3 and 4 p.m. If you're in Mumbai, do join. It's a free workshop. Anyone can walk in. So I would love to see you all there. Yeah, and now moving on to the questions, Anuradha.
Yeah, and to add, the last thing. I mean, we're saying the last and adding, that just shows we are not,
We
not
have too many things.
not editing ourselves well. But also to say that we have, we have won awards, and Roli has won awards in the last year, which is very exciting for us because it's also recognition for the work, and more importantly for the stories that we tell of the people and communities that we who share their stories for us with us.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Also, it gives us great joy. It's not just an individual award, it's the migration stories name that appears on the press release of these awards. And that's when you see the migration story alongside global newsrooms, it's it's just validation that okay, we are on the right path and this is important work and it's getting recognition. And yes, I think that was the last update, Anuradha. We must move to the questions now.
So maybe we start with our first question is from Pooja Khair, who is from New Delhi. She says, congratulations for completing 2 years. Do you think our policymakers deliberately keep a large chunk of our population beyond the reach of education, skill development, and other measures to improve from BPL, which means below poverty line, to APL, so that there is inherent class hierarchy? That's a tough sort of question, isn't it, Rolly? Because it's never so simple. A lot of the things that we see on ground are quite complex. It's not a black and white space. A lot of things intersperse. So broadly, Pooja, there are a lot of policies and there are a lot of, well-intentioned people on ground doing a lot of work, but it's also a very complex space. So it's not 2 + 2 = 4 literally, because you're
Yeah.
trying to solve for many things at the same time. So
Mm.
I don't know, I don't see anything as intentional. Maybe we could say there is poor implementation sometimes, or
Yeah.
there is just sometimes people are unaware of what the challenges are, and all these add to the fact that things don't move and change very fast on the ground.
It's a case of poor implementation and never the intention, really, because the things that she's mentioned, skill development and education, we do see a lot of emphasis to both these things up to the grassroots. But yes, the intention is always there, but implementation, it might just not be aligned to the intention. So, yeah.
And
Yeah.
actually, the next question kind of feeds into this, really. The next question
Uh,
is, looking back over the past 2 years, what has surprised you most about the stories and patterns of migration in India?
mm.
I think the story comes to us from Pondicherry.
Yeah, this question is from Meera Guthi. She's a writer based out of Pondicherry. She's been a massive cheerleader and a support to the migration story. So, what has surprised you most about the stories and patterns of migration in India? I think every story we learn something new each time we are editing a story or doing a story ourselves or ideating with the journalist who's on the ground. But the one story that comes to my mind, person from Jharkhand who migrated to multiple places in a span of less than a decade, like more than 20, 22 destinations in less than a decade. And the PDAG had done a map on it, which we had published. They did a mapping the migrants' journey, and that was surprising for me because I felt that you do know that people migrate for work and they move to different places, but that they would move to so many different destinations and so often, that was a new pattern for me. Anything that surprised you, Anuradha?
I think every story reflects a certain resilience of work. People who migrate, particularly from the communities that we report on, and their despite all odds attitude. Each story it shines at some level or the other, and I think that each time we read that, we feel quite surprised because the odds are really stacked against them most of the time, and yet they are a resilient community and they really can show
Right.
you a lot about how to live life. So yeah, and in terms of patterns, I think we're also, one of the things that we discuss is also how a lot of people also are now moving out of aspirational. There's a lot of aspirational migration that we
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
where there are young people who want to move out to work, not for the same reasons that their parents moved out to work.
Mm.
They're wanting to move out to work to, buy a better phone, buy a better, maybe lead a better life in a different way than how their parents, who felt more helpless and kind of stuck, to do
Right.
it. So while there is a lot of push, of course, because there are disasters that happen, climate affects things, crop failures, all that still exists. But there's also a lot of people who move because they're aspirational. They want to see a new city, they
Yeah.
want to work in a new place. I think this aspirational migration pattern is something that we see more now, and
Mm.
young people talk about it more freely about why they've migrated. So that I think maybe is an interesting sort of thing that is emerging, and a good thing probably in the longer run.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. When you said resilience, it just took me to the Heat series we did last year, Anuradha, where we were talking about how people manage in the heat. Of course, we did our last Ask Us Anything, did focus on that. But yeah, it did bring back those stories to my mind. Yeah.
And I think one of the stories which Roli is going to talk about, because it is one of her favorite stories that we have done, is about this young migrant who cracked NEET. So I'm going to let Roli talk about it.
Which is in response actually to the next question, again from Meera. And she said, which migrant story or episode has stayed with you emotionally and why? Yeah, and we'll be lying actually if we say that we've not been moved by multiple stories that we've carried on our portal. My favorite story was this video story, and you can see it on YouTube by Rakhi Ghosh. She's an Odisha based journalist, video journalist. She interviewed the migrant worker. He's a 19-year-old boy, Shubham, who was at a construction site, working at a construction site in Karnataka when he heard from back home that he had cracked NEET. And the way she told the story in this video was very beautiful because she went and met him in his house, and she had to walk 3 kilometers through farms and forests, and his was the last house in that village. So that's the scale of marginalization. It's not just, you're so far from the main road, from the highway, but you're also the last house in the village. But somehow everybody she asked around if they knew Shubham's house, everyone knew it because he had cracked NEET and he was the poster boy of the village. So the story kind of carries that emotion of what he had achieved. It came across in the way he spoke. He knew the importance of cracking NEET. But why I felt that it was the best story is also because of this boy's commitment towards his community. It wasn't just aspiration. It wasn't that he just wanted to become a doctor because it's a national ambition, like every child, every parent wants their child to become a doctor. In his case, he felt that people in his community were still consulting quacks if they were falling ill. And he says that in the video, in the story that Rakhi has done, that I want them to see a doctor and I'll be that doctor. People die because they're not treated well. So yeah, that's one story that stayed with me.
हमारे गांव में तो अगर किसी को कुछ डिजीज़ हुआ तो वो तो पहले डॉक्टर के पास नहीं जाते हैं, क्योंकि पहले अगर गवर्नमेंट जो हमारे पंचायत में है उधर जाएगा भी तो वो डिजीज़ का क्योर हो जाएगा, ये यकीन नहीं है। और इसके लिए मैं मेरे हिसाब से मुझसे जितना होगा मैं हेल्प करूँगा, सोचाऊँगी।
For me, I think it's stories that have food related. So this was a story done by Niyati and Anushka from Bangalore, from a migrant hub, and it was basically they just visited this neighborhood multiple times, sat in homes and talked to people about all migrant workers and talked to them about what they cook. And what are the ingredients they bring from home when they travel, because it's peculiar to they like that ingredient, they don't get it here. And what are the adaptations they do, have they added anything to their cuisine from the local community markets, etc. And the story was really interesting because the women and the families shared some of the recipes that they were cooking at that particular point of time. And so we also, it also challenged us on how we should put it on the website, because you had an article, but you also had recipes in it, which were really simple, and you had lovely photographs. So I think, the story just, talks about related really well, because when all of us travel, we all crave something from back home. And this showed how people adapt with food. It also showed how people come together with food, locals and migrants. And it also had these recipes which you could try. It was a challenging sort of page to design as well, because we tried so many ways in which it could be. And then we've also sort of brought out just the recipes as a small zine, so which is really interesting as well. Yeah, so that was fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed the visuals of that story. The visual of those deep fried potatoes. Oh my God.
True. And across, it was a mix of food also. It was not, so
Yeah,
it was
mix of
really
food.
nice.
Yeah.
But it would be really interesting to also know from people who are listening in if things like the zine that we've brought out is something you would be interested in being able to access, or, do let
Yeah.
us know if these are things you would like us to also put out and make it accessible to our subscribers at least. Yeah.
Right.
What's our
And
next question, Roli?
there's another one. I think is a curious person. So this is another one from her. If you were starting this podcast today, what questions about migration in India would you prioritize that maybe weren't on your radar 2 years ago?
Right. So I think 2 years ago, when we started, we were very fixed on the idea of wanting to capture the journeys of migrants within India. And we kept pretty early into the space, into our doing this, we kept getting stories and ideas about others who had migrated into India, particularly from neighboring countries and things like that. And we knew that their journeys were also difficult. We knew that Indians were migrating outside of India, and their journeys were also difficult. So I think when we started out, we were very focused on telling stories of people migrating within the country, but then we did, see wisdom in moving this to covering Indians migrating outside as well as blue collar workers. I think we've started doing it, but I think we have a lot of ground to cover, because we've done I think a couple of stories. We've done one from India and Germany. We've done one from Singapore. We've done, but there are so many other stories to tell, because there is such a large Indian population of semi-skilled, unskilled workers who still go outside India. And I think that was something that we hadn't thought, I mean, wasn't our priority when we began, but I think we now think that's equally important, and we definitely would want to do more in that space as we go forward.
Yeah, and all our learnings from our previous reporting, Anuradha, like when you and I were covering trafficking and global supply chains, etc. I think also a lot of reporting around Gulf migrants that came in handy when we started doing these stories and in the ideation and when the stories started coming in. So we will build on that in this year. Yeah.
Yes, that is true. I mean, so we have a lot of things that we do want to do.
Yeah.
From improving our definitely more focused gender focused reporting around
Yeah.
migration, which we
Yeah.
feel is quite important. There are many regions that we feel we need to cover more from. So these are things that you will see in the coming year. And do we have any more questions,
Yes,
Julie?
yes. From Usha Mani Munshi, she's from Mumbai, and she's a regular reader. And she said that she's written to us asking if resources were unlimited, what untold migration story would you most want to explore next? Internal migration, cross border, climate driven, or anything else? What's your wish list, Anuradha?
Well, the wish list is like sometimes you don't even think about the wish list because it
Yeah,
just seems so far away. But I think one thing for sure is we would really like to look at our multimedia storytelling in a more unique way than we do now. I think we would really like to do a lot of more podcasts which are not just talking heads, which are also important because they do break down things and tell you, really give you a lot of insight. But we would also like to take our microphone into the field more often and tell stories that are reported for
yeah.
audio.
Audio reports, yeah.
Yeah. And similarly, I think we would really love to do, I mean, we do want to do a longer documentary, really, right? That's something we keep talking about,
Right.
uh, a long form documentary. And I think the option she's, thinking of, internal, cross-border, climate-driven, I think they all intersect all the time. So for us to separate them is quite difficult. But we're also hearing, and we would love to explore, of newer sort of migration corridors coming up that are,
Underreported. Have not.
underreported and also being influenced by climate or other such things, because things are also changing on ground. And yeah,
Right.
we would definitely like to explore some of these much more as we go along.
And the first part of a question is if resources were unlimited. So that is an opportunity for me to say that if our readers can subscribe, as in if readers subscribe to the Migration Story platform, that gives us the resources to do the things that we just discussed. We would like to go on the ground more. We would want to fund more journalists to travel to some of the most underreported regions of the country, and that will only happen if we get the support of all our readers who can subscribe. I'll put the link in the show notes, so there will be our subscription page link there. We have multiple options over there. You can check them and see whatever works for you, and support our journalism, because that's the only way we are able to do what we are doing right now.
Yeah, I'll second that. So do subscribe. We don't put things behind a paywall because we do want it to be accessible. But when you subscribe, you are supporting storytelling, which is unique, and you're supporting journalists to go out there and bring you interesting narratives, which hopefully will educate and create more awareness and speak to policy eventually. So that's the larger sort of ambition.
Right. Yeah, I
think-
think that's a wrap, I guess, because we've covered the questions. And if readers have more questions, we would request you to please send in your questions to us regularly on write to us at themigrationstory.com. You'll see that email ID even in our show notes. So do write to us. It could be an observation about a story, it could be an idea that you may have come across that you think makes for a good story that we can pursue. Anything. It could be a global event that you want to kind of think that we should discuss on our next podcast. We are happy to take all your questions. So do write and do support the Migration Story. It's we keep hearing that it's an important platform, and we are glad. We feel happy with the feedback, but we also need all the support that can come our way.
Thank you, and we'll see you in our next episode. Till then, keep reading, liking, sharing, and subscribing to the Migration Story.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Check out our website www.themigrationstory.com for more content. You can subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and Spotify. The audio editing and sound design is by Akshay Ramuhalli. Stay tuned for more stories on migration.
The Migration Story.